Walter Briggs had trusted his grandson with everything: the bank accounts, the property documents, the power of attorney that his own attorney had warned him to be careful with. Walter had waved that warning away. He said Ryan was family. He said family was the only thing that mattered. He was 81 years old when he found out what family had done to him. Walter Briggs had spent 50 years building a modest but serious fortune in Houston, Texas. He had started in commercial plumbing, expanded into property development, and by the time he retired at 72, he owned 4 rental properties, 2 commercial units downtown, and a family home that had been paid off for 20 years. His estate was valued at $5.2 million. His daughter Patricia had been his primary caregiver since his wife passed in 2018. She lived 20 minutes away, visited 4 times a week, and managed his grocery runs, medical appointments, and household bills without complaint. Walter loved her deeply. He also loved his grandson, Ryan, Patricia's nephew from his late son's side of the family, who had moved back to Houston in 2020 after years away. Ryan was 34 years old, personable, and always short of money in ways he never fully explained. He had a talent for making people feel comfortable around him. Walter felt comfortable. When Ryan offered to help manage the paperwork that had been piling up since Walter's eyesight began to fail, Walter said yes without hesitation. 6 weeks later, Walter signed a power of attorney document Ryan had prepared. Walter believed it was a limited document for managing utility bills and routine expenses. It was not. It was a broad and unrestricted power of attorney covering all financial and property decisions. Ryan moved quickly. Within 90 days, he had transferred the 2 downtown commercial units into an LLC registered in his own name. He refinanced one of the rental properties and withdrew $340,000 in equity. He opened 3 new accounts in Walter's name and moved $780,000 in savings through them before withdrawing the funds in cashier's checks made out to himself. He forged Walter's signature on 2 additional property transfer documents. By the time Patricia noticed something was wrong, Ryan had moved or stolen just over $2 million and was in the process of transferring the remaining properties. Patricia noticed because of a single piece of mail. A property tax bill arrived at Walter's house for one of the downtown commercial units. The ownership name on the bill was not Walter Briggs. It was Briggs Capital, LLC. Patricia had never heard of Briggs Capital, LLC. She asked her father about it. Walter looked at her with the expression of a man who is beginning to understand something he does not want to understand. Patricia called an attorney the same afternoon. Her attorney, a probate and elder law specialist named James Holloway, filed an emergency motion in Harris County Probate Court within 48 hours to revoke the power of attorney and freeze all asset transfers pending investigation. A forensic accountant was retained and spent 3 weeks tracing every transaction Ryan had executed under the power of attorney. The picture that emerged was methodical and deliberate. Ryan had not acted impulsively. He had studied Walter's assets carefully before making a single move. He had identified which properties could be transferred quickly, which accounts had the least oversight, and which transactions were small enough to avoid immediate attention. When detectives contacted Ryan, he told the detectives Walter had been fully aware of every transaction and personally directed him to restructure the estate for tax purposes. He said Patricia was simply trying to interfere with her father's financial decisions. The detective asked Ryan to provide a single document showing Walter's written approval for any of the transfers. Ryan could not produce one. The case was heard before the Honorable Judge Carol Simmons at Harris County Probate Court in Houston, Texas. James Holloway presented the forensic accountant's complete findings. A handwriting expert testified that 2 of the property transfer documents carried forged signatures. Walter Briggs testified personally, seated in a wheelchair, and told the court clearly and without hesitation that he had never authorized the transfer of any property or the withdrawal of any savings beyond routine household expenses. Ryan's attorney, a civil litigator named Mark Donovan, argued that the power of attorney had been validly executed and that Ryan had acted within its scope. He argued that Walter's memory had deteriorated and that his testimony was unreliable. James Holloway asked the court to look at the timeline. Ryan had completed the majority of his transfers within the first 90 days of receiving the power of attorney. He had moved with the urgency of someone who knew exactly how long he had before someone noticed. That was not estate planning. That was theft with a deadline. Judge Carol Simmons revoked the power of attorney, declared all unauthorized transfers void, and ordered the full recovery of all misappropriated assets. She awarded Patricia, acting on behalf of Walter's estate, a civil judgment against Ryan for $2.1 million in damages. Ryan Briggs was charged with elder financial abuse, forgery, and theft. He was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 7 years in Texas State Prison. Walter Briggs moved in with Patricia after the verdict. He told his attorney he was not angry. He said he was tired in a way that sleep could not fix. Some people spend a lifetime building something safe, and sometimes the person they hand the keys to was never safe at all. If this story moved you, subscribe to Justice Journals for more true crime courtroom stories every week. And tell us in the comments, would you ever give a family member power of attorney?